Hey y'all, it's your girl Erica Vane back again with another breakdown of Showtime's The Shy. And in this video, we are breaking down episode 7. Let's get into it. The episode opens with Kiesha and her son, and she went ahead and took the baby back from Octavia. And I'm going to assume that there was no fight or argument that ensued because we don't really get to see how the baby actually ended up with Kiesha. We just get to see them being mom and son. Throughout this episode, we see Kiesha, much like Octavia, doesn't know what to name her son. But then it comes to her after a nightmare about her incident from last year with her abductor. And she decides to name him Ronnie because Ronnie is the one who actually saved her life. This was just almost like a full circle moment, but I think Nina was right. At the very beginning of the episode, when we see her with her son, Nina walks in and she asks her, is she sure? And then she follows up with, are you sure? Because what are you going to do when he starts looking like his dad? And that's a very real question to ask. Now, Nina is not very high up on my list right now because she is making poor decisions in her own life, but she definitely loves her daughter, and that's a very valid question. I think one thing I would like to see, we already have seen them go to therapy as a family, but I would love to see Kiesha in therapy on her own so that she's able to be fully equipped to handle all that's going to come. In this episode, when we see her have the nightmare about the abduction, about her rescue, which ultimately brings her to the point of naming her son after Ronnie, it also is a quick reminder that she still has a lot of trauma that she's going to have to deal with. There's still so many nights, like she was missing for months. She was with this guy for months, and you don't necessarily just get through that. And while I understand her maternal instinct and wanting to keep her baby because she had the baby, she didn't have the baby necessarily out of love. She didn't have the baby, well, I mean, she could have, I guess, had an abortion, but in reference to out of love with the partner that she chose to, or someone that she was absolutely in love with. She was impregnated by her abductor, and that is like a heavy thing to have weigh on you. And then we move to catch up with Douda, who is limping around the hood, but he is making good on his promises. In the last episode, we saw him make a deal with Imani and Trig, and them decide to almost band together more so like family. So we see Trig showing up for Douda in this episode more like a son and just really kind of supporting him. And one of the things that Douda had vowed to help with was getting that women's house shut down, that sex trafficking house shut down. So that's what the first thing that they do in this episode. And I thought it was so dope. Like, while I think that The Shy this season has been very ambitious with all of the plot lines that they have laid out, they are doing them beautifully. Like, they aren't fumbling the past. Like, they really are following through with these storylines. And I love that they broke up this sex trafficking house, this trap house, but then they don't do so like, oh, we just fixed it, we just told them to go home, or we just got the guys out of there and it was over. You get to see throughout this episode the progression of like, okay, so what do we do now? Because while these guys were sex trafficking us, were pimping us, were doing all these things to us, they were also making sure that we had food, they were also making sure we had money, and all the girls in the house have nowhere to go, which ultimately brings Imani to the decision of like, okay, well, let's turn this house into y'all's house. And they're ultimately going to name it after Trinity, one of the women who was killed while Imani was trying to get her out, which is ultimately what pushes for her to really want to go hard and get this house cleaned up. But this now becomes a place for these women because these women's like, we don't have nowhere to go, we have no food, we have no money, and we don't want to go to a shelter and wind up being discarded a few weeks later. Like, there's all these real problems, and in this episode they actually have that conversation, and then they address that conversation, they address those problems with the solution of them being able to have the house and turn the house into a place where they can really reset their lives and start to thrive, which I thought was beautiful. Now, I'm going to assume that Jada's chemo is progressing as planned because we saw in last episode she started to see hair loss, and in this episode she decides to go ahead and just chop off all of her hair. And this is something that we have seen time and time again in the cancer storylines. I thought it was really empowering the way they showed it in this episode, so shout out to them. I definitely thought that it was a liberating moment and not just a depressing one for Jada. Watching Nina struggle with this guilt of cheating on Dre this entire episode, was truly chef's kiss for me, because she deserves every bit of guilt that she was experiencing. And the fact that Emmett is the one who actually has a conversation with her about the guilt that he can breathe all over her face and how she just needs to go ahead and come clean. It's a callback to him at the start of the season when he tells Tiff that he slept with Dom. So he didn't cheat on her in the marriage, but he cheated on her while they were still girlfriend and boyfriend, and he admits that. And we saw the ramifications of his guilt. Like, he was having nightmares and visions and all types of stuff, and he could see that on Nina. It's so great that he was the one to actually point that out. And by the end of the episode, it pushes her to actually tell Dre the truth. Now, I do have another video coming where I talk about if Dre is going to leave Nina, because Dre really loves Nina down, and you could tell that she is broken by the news breaking that Nina slept with someone else. And before I get completely off of Kiesha, I want to double back to talk about, they didn't have a baby shower for her, but they basically had a baby shower for her. Now she has the baby, and that's what brought Emmett over to the house, Emmett and Tiff. And I absolutely love the friendship that Tiff and Kiesha have cultivated. Keisha's already really great friends with Emmett, but the fact that Tiff is able to really support Kiesha through all of this has been super great. They have a conversation about if Kiesha looks stupid or people are looking at her stupid, and she's like, girl, don't worry about it. Nobody got to say this is about you and your baby and what makes you happy. And I couldn't give her better advice. Shout out to Tiff. Come through. And while we talking about Tiff, we're going to touch on this little sex party real quick, because she goes to work the sex party selling their edibles, and Emmett winds up going with them. And I think that that's just laying out a little bit more that we're going to see evolve with this couple by way of their open relationship and exploring more things sexually. Emmett and Tiff seem like they're in a good place. They seem like they're in a much better place with this open relationship now that they have even more rules, or open marriage now that they have even more rules. So I suppose if it works for them, then cool. I didn't think it was going to work for them. Like, I thought they were both too jealous. They were both too immature to do something like this. And I do still believe that Emmett is very much so in love with Tiff, and he wants to be with Tiff. So I don't know how much more it's going to last, but right now they're making it work, and they're making the open marriage healthy. So by all means, carry on. Please carry on. And y'all, I started to get my dang on hopes up while we were watching this episode play out, because we see the positive ramifications of defunding the police and actually stepping in your community and us policing ourselves and all of that. And it looks so great in the beginning. We get the thug stopping a dude from breaking into the car. We get old girl in this little abusive relationship that Dre and Trig have been counseling, both the girl and the boy. The guy that's played by Vic Mensa. She's like, oh, you got to sign because I want to be able to promote what we're doing. Like, it's actually working for me. But then by the end of the day on episode, y'all, stuff goes awry. Stuff goes completely awry. I gotta look this up because I can never remember his character's name. But Vic Mensa's character has been in this on again, off again relationship and been emotionally, physically abusive to his girlfriend, and they're one of the couples that we see often by way of this community policing program. And by the end of the episode, she has called her brother or her cousin or somebody to get with him. And ultimately ends up, he has to wind up killing this guy. And it's like, all right, so now the community policing ain't gonna work if people start showing up dead, y'all. If we killing each other, we not gonna be able to prove that we can manage our own community, we can manage our own problems, we can manage our own struggle. Y'all are messing up the program. Golly. And in this episode, we start to see Kevin get his joy back, and he starts to pursue this new girl, which I'm like, Kevin, you moving a little fast, bro. Finish licking your wounds, pretty please. Finish licking your wounds, because you ain't over Gemma that quick. This just happened. You just had all that fallout. But the new girl seems really, really cool. They connected on a deeper level. I think that this girl is going to help teach Kevin how to develop a very strong foundation in a friendship first, because he offers to take her out on a date and she's like, nah, I don't want to do that, but we can kick it, we can play video games, we could talk, we could just be friends. And he's taken aback by it because he's used to what he's seen with Gemma and like how that all has played out. But I think this girl could be really, really great for him. She's opening him up to new things, taking him to new places. And she's different by way of she comes from a similar place or worse place than where Kevin comes from. And it's the complete opposite of Gemma, because Gemma came from a very privileged situation. Gemma has a very privileged outlook. Even though she's a young black girl in Chicago, she's a wealthy young black girl in Chicago. So she has a very different outlook on life than what this new young lady has. And I think that this is going to be a really great eye-opening experience and relationship for Kevin to cultivate. So I'm excited about that. And while we talking about these kids, we see Papa, he's trying to get his girl back, and he's coaching Jake on how to actually, you know, be in a relationship, because Jake don't love these hoes, and Gemma's the first person he's actually putting a lot of effort and energy into. So he gets help by way of that, and it's so cute because not only do we get to see Papa help Jake out, but then also Trig and Imani give him a little tip about the stepping and all of that jazz. So he creates a nice little moment for him and Gemma. And I'm like, y'all about to make me like them together, and I have been completely adverse to it. I feel like the way they went about it has been absolutely trash. I know that they're children, but I'm still pissed. They broke Kevin's heart. Kevin then lost a best friend and his girlfriend at the same time. It's too much. But in this episode, they really helped me start to come to terms with Gemma and Jake and actually see it for them. Like, because I love that this is going to stretch them both. So I see Jake growing as a man, as a young man, in this relationship, even listening to people give him advice on what to do with her, and to really invest in her and to put effort in her, and to care, like to really care about somebody other than yourself to the point that you're thoughtful and intentional. And I think that's a really great lesson to learn, and that's what we see play out in this episode by way of him prepping for his date with Gemma, which is so cute. So I guess I'm gonna get on board, y'all. Y'all still raggedy for how y'all did it, but I'm gonna get on board. Now, Gemma, on the other hand, I really do feel like she's just going down the ghetto guy barrel, and she's went from Kevin to now Jake, and now Jake. I'm like, who's going to be next? She seems very, very attracted to or interested in what she perceives as danger or the bad guy. Even when she made the comment to Kevin about, oh, I just needed something different, I feel like she wanted a little bit more ghetto. Like, Kevin gave her a little peek of it because he comes from that place, but he's still a very well-to-do young black man. And Jake had a little bit more edge, a little bit more hood to him. Like, she's definitely giving me that vibe. I could be wrong, but she's definitely giving me that vibe, and I got my eyes on Gemma. Right now, sis is still on my list. Jake, he coming up off my list, but Gemma, you still on my list, girl, and I'm watching you. And y'all, that is my episode 7 of The Shy season 4 breakdown. Let me know what you thought about the episode in the comment section down below. Also, let me know what you thought about my breakdown. What are your predictions for next week's episode? Tell me all that and more. If you're new here, I'm Erica Vane, and I post new videos every single day, multiple times a day. I'm breaking down The Shy every single week, also talking about characters. As I mentioned before, we're going to have the Dre and Nina video coming very soon, so we're going to dive into specific plot points of the show and talk more about that. If there's something that you would love for me to talk about, or you got a question about, put it in the comment section down below. I will definitely make a video about it. Go ahead and subscribe and join the tribe. I promise you are going to love it here. I got my The Shy playlist link for you right here if you missed any of my The Shy coverage so far. And if you're looking for something new to watch that is also in line with what we're doing on The Shy, what we're seeing on The Shy, then check out one of these 2 videos that we are also breaking down right here on Erica Vane TV. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!